The rain came down like it had been rehearsing its grief for months. It drummed against the asphalt and bounced off the hood of the car, a relentless percussion that matched the rhythm of Adam Fletcher's heart. Erratic, pounding, exhausted. He stood in the empty parking lot of the hospital, staring at the neon Red Cross sign, flickering in the foggy night, the mist curling around the letters like smoke from a funeral pyre. 2 weeks. 14 days. That was all it had been since his daughter, Lily, had been taken from him. The world continued as if nothing had happened. But for Adam, time had fractured. Clocks ticked, but did not measure anything meaningful. The sun rose and set, yet each day felt indistinguishable from the last, gray, hollow, unbreathing. He was a man who had built a life on purpose. A successful marketing executive, a devoted father, a friend who kept his word and measured kindness like currency. And yet here he was, standing alone in the rain, feeling the weight of everything he had ever loved slipping through his fingers. Inside the hospital, he had gone through the motions of paperwork, of police reports, of insurance forms. But each signature, each stamp felt like a betrayal of the daughter who had never read them, never smile at him from across the kitchen table, never ask for ice cream at the corner store, never call him dad, in that half-shouted, giggling way she had perfected at age 6. He rubbed his face with both hands, pushing away the damp strands of hair plastered to his forehead. He didn't notice the man watching him from the edge of the parking lot, leaning against a black SUV with a folded umbrella tucked under one arm. He didn't notice the way the man's gaze lingered, calm, patient, unassuming, almost like he had been waiting for Adam to arrive. "Rough night?" the man asked softly. Adam flinched, startled. He hadn't heard footsteps, hadn't heard the voice. His chest tightened. He wanted to tell the stranger to leave, but something about the tone, steady, not intrusive, made him pause. "Who are you?" Adam said, his voice uneven. "Someone who knows what it's like to feel invisible in your own pain," the man replied. He moved slightly, as if offering Adam space. "I can sit if you want. No judgment, no advice, just presence." Adam didn't answer. He wanted to. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to scream no. He wanted to throw himself into the storm and disappear. But something in the simplicity of the offer, to just sit, to not demand words, to not expect a performance, made him nod. The man lowered himself onto the concrete curb a few feet away. He kept his eyes on the puddles at their feet, letting the rain soak his jacket. Adam stayed standing, shoulders tense, fists clenched. The night stretched long, but neither of them spoke. Finally, Adam whispered, almost to himself, "It wasn't supposed to be like this. She was only 7. The man nodded, slowly, as if understanding more than the words could convey. "It's not fair," he said. "No, it's not," Adam admitted. He shook his head. "She was everything. She had this way of making the world seem like it could be soft, even if it was hard. And now she's gone. And I don't know how to exist in a world without her." The man's voice was calm, measured, deliberate. Grief isn't about forgetting. It's about finding a way to carry the person you lost without letting them crush the life that remains. But it's hard. Harder than anything most people can imagine. Adam's throat constricted. "Carry her? I can barely carry myself." "You're allowed to break," the man said. "You're allowed to fall apart. But you're not allowed to stay there forever. Life, it has a way of pulling you back, whether you want it to or not." Adam stared at him, searching for the edges of the stranger's presence. Something about the man made him want to ask a question, but words failed him. Instead, he closed his eyes, letting the rain run over his face, letting the world dissolve into droplets and shadow and cold. When he opened them, the man had shifted slightly, enough that Adam realized he had been observing him. Not in a prying way, but in a way that said, "I see you. I see your pain. You can't change what happened," the man said gently. "But there's still a way to change what comes next. Sometimes it starts with something so small, so simple, you wouldn't notice it if you weren't paying attention. A gesture, a word, a choice. Something that reminds you life still exists." Adam's voice was barely audible. "I don't know if I can do that." "You can," the man said. "I promise. But it has to start with something real. Not grand, not heroic, just real. Honest. Something that matters. even in a small way. Adam didn't know what to say. The rain washed over him, and in that silence, he felt the stirrings of a thought, fragile, tremulous, like the first crack of light before dawn. He had built walls around his heart, around his life after Lily died. Walls to keep the pain contained, walls to keep the world at a safe distance. And yet, the stranger was here, and the walls seemed porous in his presence. He took a step closer. How do you do that? Start again. The man glanced at him, eyes steady, unwavering. You find someone who needs to be seen. You reach out, even when it seems pointless. You give a little of yourself, without expectation, without calculating what it'll get you. And then you do it again, and again. Grain by grain, you rebuild what was broken. Adam stared at the puddles reflecting the neon lights. Grain by grain, he repeated. The man nodded. It's the smallest choices that often matter the most. The ones nobody notices, the ones that feel meaningless, the ones that add up until one day you realize the weight you're carrying has shifted. And it's lighter. Not gone forever, but lighter. Adam's lips trembled. He wanted to believe it. He wanted to feel it. For the first time in 2 weeks, he felt a flicker, a warmth that wasn't just grief, a light that pierced through the fog of loss. Who are you? He asked again, quieter this time. The man smiled faintly. Just someone who's been where you are. Someone who's learned that even in the darkest storm, there's a way back to the world. My name, it doesn't matter. Just know this. Lily would want you to find it. She would want you to see that life still holds meaning, even without her physical presence. Adam nodded. He didn't know why he believed the stranger, but he did. Something in the calm certainty of his voice made the impossible feel possible. The rain slowed. The neon sign above flickered one last time before burning steady. Adam exhaled, and when he did, it wasn't just air leaving his lungs. It was the first hint of release in days, a crack in the armor of despair. The man stood. He adjusted the umbrella tucked under his arm. Go inside, he said. Let the world notice you again, even if it's just a little. Start small. One step, one moment. And remember, grain by grain. Adam watched him walk into the night, vanish into the city, and realized something profound. He hadn't known hope could feel so fragile and yet so alive. He turned toward the hospital doors. Each step was deliberate, measured. The warmth of the building met him first at the fingertips, then at his face, as if life itself was coaxing him back. He breathed in the sterile scent of antiseptic, the faint trace of coffee from the lobby cafe, the murmur of nurses and doctors moving through their routines. And for the first time since Lily had died, Adam felt awake. Not healed, not whole, not anywhere near that, but present, alert, ready, in some distant corner of himself, to take the first of many small steps back into a life that had seemed irretrievably lost. The first act of Adam's journey had begun, a journey that would take him through grief, through pain, through moments that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, loss, and the resilience of the human heart. Grain by grain. If this story is moving you, pause for a moment to reflect on someone in your life who needs a little kindness today. Even the smallest gesture can change everything. The days after that night in the rain blurred together. Adam returned to his apartment, to the empty echo of a home that had once been full of laughter and life. The walls were silent witnesses, the toys still scattered in their tiny corners, the framed photos on shelves catching the winter light in a way that only accentuated absence. But he was moving slowly, painfully, inch by inch, like a man testing a path through fog. He kept the ritual small. 1 cup of coffee in the morning, 1 shower, 1 moment outside to feel the wind. He didn't talk much, and when he did, it was to answer emails from work or return brief calls from concerned friends. But inside, something had shifted. The words of the stranger in the rain replayed in his mind, grain by grain. It was on the 5th day that the first letter arrived. Adam didn't notice the plain, white envelope at first. It had been slipped under his door while he was taking out the trash. The handwriting was elegant, deliberate, almost old-fashioned. His name was written in black ink, Adam Fletcher. No return address. No stamp. Just his name. He paused in the hallway, holding the envelope in his hand. Something about it felt intentional. He didn't want to open it. He wanted to toss it in the bin and pretend it never existed. But the compulsion was stronger than his hesitation. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Adam, the world still has a story to tell. You have been part of it already. The next step begins when you open your heart to it. No signature. No further instruction. He stared at the words, heart racing, mind scrambling. Who would send this? Why him? What story could possibly matter anymore? And yet, something inside him, fragile and trembling, urged him to act, to notice, to follow. The next day, a second letter appeared. This one was thicker, folded with care. Inside was a photograph. Not of people he knew, but of a small park bench, empty, early morning mist curling around its wrought iron frame. Written in the corner, in the same elegant handwriting, "Sit here. Notice." Adam felt a shiver run down his spine. He didn't know why, but he obeyed. The park was a 10-minute walk from his apartment, a place he hadn't visited in years. He sat on the bench, watching the mist curl between the trees. No one was around, just the whisper of leaves and the occasional bark of a dog in the distance. He felt ridiculous, absurd even, but a thread of something. Curiosity? Hope? Nudged him forward. Minutes passed. He felt nothing. Then he noticed a small coin lying on the bench beside him. Ordinary, copper, flipped on its edge like someone had dropped it carelessly. He picked it up, and as he did, the edges of the coin seemed warmer than the cold morning air, almost vibrating. A voice in his head, faint, almost imagined, grain by grain, Adam. Start small. The letters continued to arrive over the following week. Each one was more detailed, more deliberate. Photographs of everyday moments. A child tying her shoelaces, a woman feeding birds, a man returning a lost dog to its owner. Accompanied by a few words, always urging him to observe, to notice, to be present. And with each letter, Adam found himself feeling something he hadn't felt in weeks: connection. A sense of life, fragile and tender, seeping through the cracks of his grief. But there was also the creeping, gnawing suspense. Who was sending these letters? Why him? What do they want? It was on the 7th letter that everything changed. The envelope was thicker, heavier, and when he opened it, he found a small, handwritten journal. The first page reads simply, "Adam, you must meet them. You have already begun. The next step is not observing, but participating. Your heart will guide you." Inside, scattered pages, detailed stories, brief, heartbreaking, beautiful, ordinary, extraordinary. Accounts of people performing small acts of kindness, moments of courage, and glimmers of hope. Each story ended with a challenge. Go. Do. See. Give. Adam felt his pulse quicken. The lines between reality and something almost mystical began to blur. He wanted to dismiss it as a prank, but the care, the precision, the emotional weight of the stories, he couldn't deny their impact. He returned to the park bench that evening, journal in hand. The air was crisp, tinged with the smell of winter approaching. He sat and read, then reread, feeling his chest tighten and loosen in alternating waves. There were instructions: notice a stranger's sadness and offer a smile, help someone carry groceries, pay for someone's coffee anonymously, write a note to someone who had made a difference in his life. Grain by grain, he stood, feeling a strange urgency. He didn't know why, but he walked to the corner cafe. He saw a young woman, frazzled, juggling a toddler and a coffee cup. Without thinking, he stepped forward. "Here," he said, handing her a $20 bill. "For the coffee." "Go ahead." She looked at him, stunned. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "Yes. Just smile for me today." The woman's lips curved, small, fragile, but real. Adam felt something unfamiliar. Satisfaction. Purpose. A spark of light in the darkness. He returned home that night, drenched in fog and exhaustion, but alive in a way he hadn't been since Lily's death. And then the final twist of the act. A note slipped under his door when he returned. "You've begun, Adam, but not all acts are kind. Not all attention is safe. Be vigilant." Some will see your openness and try to exploit it. Trust your heart, but trust your eyes too. Adam's hands shook as he read the words. The narrative was changing. The suspense deepened. This wasn't just about healing grief. It was about survival, about navigating a world where kindness could be rewarded or weaponized, about finding hope amid darkness while guarding against betrayal. He realized that the man in the rain, the letters, the journal, they were part of a larger design, a puzzle. And Adam, broken and grieving, had been chosen to walk the path. Grain by grain, step by step, he would rebuild. And he would need to be careful. Every gesture mattered. Every choice carried weight, and danger lurked even in moments of beauty. Adam's life had begun to shift in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. The letters, the photographs, the journal, they weren't just messages, they were a map. Each story, each challenge, led him deeper into a world he hadn't known existed. A world where kindness could ignite profound change, yet where human motives were never purely innocent. The park bench became his anchor. Every morning, he would sit there, journal in hand, waiting. Sometimes nothing happened. Other times, he noticed small, meaningful moments. A woman quietly comforting her sobbing child, a man helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries, a stray cat being fed by a gentle stranger. Each observation he recorded meticulously, noting reactions, emotions, and lessons. Yet, as his awareness grew, so did the tension. One evening, as the sun was fading and the mist began to curl around the park paths, Adam noticed a man watching him from across the street. The man wore a long coat, hands tucked in pockets, eyes sharp, calculating. Adam's instincts flared. He wasn't sure why, but every fiber of his being screamed that this wasn't just a passerby. Over the next few days, Adam began noticing more observers. People who lingered just long enough to catch his eye, then disappear. He started checking over his shoulder, feeling exposed, vulnerable. The warmth of the journal's guidance was now tempered with an uneasy awareness that not everyone welcomed this renewed attention to life. Then came the third letter. Unlike the others, this one arrived in a thick, black envelope. The handwriting was the same, elegant, precise, but the message was stark. Some kindnesses will be tested. Some trust will be betrayed. You must choose wisely who you open your heart to. Danger hides in plain sight. Adam's hands trembled as he read the words. The tension in his chest tightened. He wasn't just following the path of kindness anymore. He was stepping into a labyrinth of shadows. Someone was watching him, studying him, perhaps even planning to manipulate the very compassion he was cultivating. That night, he walked the streets, taking longer routes home, noting every passerby, every flicker of movement in the dark. He felt hunted, yet exhilarated, as though the stakes had grown impossibly high. The next day, a fourth letter arrived. This one contained a photograph of his apartment, taken from across the street. Adam's heart skipped. The message, written on the back, was simple but chilling. You are seen. Every act is observed. Trust, but remain vigilant. Adam's mind raced. Who could be doing this? Why? The lessons of the journal had prepared him for acts of kindness, for emotional engagement, for subtle heroism. But this was something different. This was fear. Despite the fear, Adam knew he couldn't retreat. He had tasted life again. He had seen how small gestures could spark hope. And he had a sense that this path, however perilous, was meant for him. The first major challenge came a week later. Walking home from the park, Adam noticed a woman struggling with a stroller, her groceries spilling across the sidewalk. He rushed to help. As he lifted the stroller and gathered the bags, he noticed a small, distinctive gold ring on her hand, the same design as one in the journal stories. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Adam felt a jolt. The ring, the connection. The journal had led him here. But before he could respond, a hand clamped over his shoulder. He turned sharply. A man, the observer from the park, his eyes cold and assessing. "Impressive," the man said. "You follow the instructions well. But do you really understand what you're doing?" Adam felt a chill. "Who are you?" "Someone who watches," the man replied. someone who sees who is truly kind and who is naive. He let go of Adam's shoulder, but lingered, the tension in the air sharp and immediate. Adam's mind raced. This was more than a test. This was a challenge. And he knew, instinctively, that it wasn't the last one. Days turned into a tense rhythm. Adam continued to perform small acts of kindness, each one weighted with the awareness of being watched. Sometimes the letters offered encouragement, sometimes they hinted at danger. And always, the journal reminded him, grain by grain. One evening, the crescendo began. Adam returned to his apartment to find the door ajar. Panic surged. Inside, everything seemed untouched, except the journal. It had been opened to a new page, and a single line was written in fresh ink. The final act will define you. Choose who to save and who to trust. Only one will reveal the truth. Adam's heart hammered. He knew, without understanding exactly how, that the journal had orchestrated everything. The kindness, the observations, the tests, and now the ultimate decision. He retraced the journal's stories, thinking of every individual he had encountered. He remembered the young mother with the stroller, the elderly man in the park, the stranger buying coffee, the ones he had helped, the ones he had noticed. And then he remembered the observers, the man in the coat, the subtle threats lurking behind the warmth of the journal's guidance. The night that followed was tense, fraught with decision-making. Adam walked the streets, following instinct, intuition, and the faint whisper of the journal's teachings. He found the woman from the park cornered by a mugger. Adam acted without hesitation, intervening, placing himself between the threat and her safety. The mugger fled, startled by Adam's sudden courage. As he helped the woman to safety, the observer appeared again, stepping from the shadows. But this time, his expression was not cold. It was approving. "You understand now," the man said. "You are not just performing acts of kindness. You are shaping life itself." The journal, the letters, the tests, all were meant to awaken the truth. "You have passed." Adam's chest swelled with relief, exhaustion, and a strange exhilaration. The fear, the tension, the tests, they had all been preparation. And now he understood. Life wasn't just about observing or performing small acts. It was about presence, courage, and choosing when to act, even under pressure. The final letter arrived the next morning. The envelope was unmarked, but inside was a note written in the same elegant handwriting. "Adam, you have seen, you have acted, you have survived, and you have begun to heal. Remember, the world is always watching, but it is also waiting for those brave enough to act. Grain by grain, step by step, the light returns." Adam closed the journal. For the first time in months, he felt whole. The grief had not vanished, but it had softened. The shadows had not disappeared, but he had learned to navigate them. And the world, messy, unpredictable, challenging, had begun to feel like home again. If Adam's journey inspires you, think about this. What small act of courage or kindness can you take today, even when fear tells you to stay hidden? Sometimes the biggest impact comes from facing shadows with your light. The morning sun poured through Adam's apartment window, scattering golden light across the floorboards. For the first time in weeks, the light felt unthreatening. No shadows lurked in the corners. No ominous letters awaited him on the doormat. The journal lay closed on the table, its lessons etched into his mind and heart. Adam moved deliberately, savoring the ordinary, the smell of fresh coffee, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the quiet rhythm of life continuing outside. Yet he knew the final act of his journey was yet to unfold, the one the letters and observers had foreshadowed. He went to the park, the bench his constant anchor. The crisp morning air carried the scent of damp earth and early blossoms. Children's laughter echoed in the distance. The city was alive, vibrant, unassuming, hiding extraordinary tests in its ordinary rhythm. As he approached, he saw her, the woman from the stroller. She stood at the edge of the fountain, looking troubled, as if waiting. Her gold ring caught the sunlight, glinting like a signal. Adam's pulse quickened. He approached cautiously. "Adam," she called softly. "Yes," he replied. I'm here." "Good," she said, stepping closer. I need your help. There's someone I can't explain fully, but they're threatening my family. And it's connected to everything you've been following. Adam's mind raced. The letters, the observers, the mugger. Everything suddenly aligned. The tests, the fears, the acts of kindness. They had been preparing him for this. He understood now that the journal was more than a guide. It was a call to courage, a blueprint for stepping into life fully, despite danger or uncertainty. Together, they navigated the streets, tracing subtle signs that led them to a small building on the edge of the city, abandoned, neglected, but filled with evidence of meticulous planning. Photographs, maps, notes, all pointing toward one conclusion. The threats weren't random. They were orchestrated, a test designed to measure Adam's capacity for courage, trust, and compassion under pressure. The observer appeared again, emerging from the shadows like a specter. But this time, his expression was neither threatening nor approving. It was instructive. You've done well, he said. But the final choice is yours. Who do you trust? Who do you protect? And who do you confront? Adam's mind raced, weighing every encounter, every lesson, every human he had seen and helped. Fear tugged at his resolve, but he remembered the journal's mantra, grain by grain, step by step. He stepped forward decisively. I trust the people I've helped. I protect those who are vulnerable. And I confront the danger, not with anger, but with clarity and courage. The observer's eyes softened, a faint smile breaking his stern demeanor. Then you have understood the truth. The world tests all of us. But those who respond with heart, not just intellect, carry the light forward. The woman from the stroller took a deep breath. It's him, she whispered. The one behind the threats, my ex-business partner. He's desperate. He wanted to manipulate fear, distrust, even your kindness, to control us. Adam nodded. Then let's end this. Together. The confrontation was tense, but swift. Adam and the woman approached the man, the ex-business partner, armed only with courage, moral clarity, and the knowledge that exposure was the only way to stop the cycle of fear. When Adam spoke, calm and unwavering, the man faltered. Confronted with integrity and undeniable truth, his plans unraveled like a fragile thread. Authorities arrived shortly after, having been tipped off discreetly by Adam's careful observations and reporting. The danger was over. The shadows receded. Adam exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding for weeks. Yet beyond the relief, there was the quiet triumph of life restored. Not in grand gestures, but in small, meaningful moments. Adam returned to the park bench, taking in the laughter of children, the bustle of morning routines, the warmth of sunlight filtering through trees. He felt a depth of gratitude he had never known before. He opened the journal one last time. The final page was blank, save for a single line. You are the light now. Shine it where it is needed most. Adam smiled. He understood. The journey wasn't just about surviving tests, navigating fear, or even performing acts of kindness. It was about becoming a vessel for hope, courage, and compassion, a beacon for others. The woman approached him once more, handing him a small folded note. It read, "Every act, no matter how small, carries power. The world changes because of those brave enough to act with heart." Adam felt tears prick his eyes. The journal, the letters, the observers, the tests, all had led him to this profound understanding. The ordinary could hold extraordinary meaning. Life's greatest lessons were often hidden in the simplest acts of courage, compassion, and presence. He stood, closing the journal, and looked out at the city. Somewhere, someone needed help. Somewhere, a small act of courage could shift a life. He smiled, a quiet, determined smile. And with that, he stepped forward, not running, not hesitating, but walking into the day with all the strength, kindness, and courage he had discovered. Grain by grain, step by step, heart by heart. If Adam's journey moved you, if it reminded you that courage, kindness, and hope are never wasted, hit subscribe to Acts of Hope with Zach. Share this story with someone who needs to feel seen. And remember, even the smallest act of light can change a life forever.